Well, hello there, everyone. Hope this finds you doing outstanding. It is Sunday, June the 26th in the year 2022. It's amazing how fast time goes by, especially the older you get. And let's see. Remember, I'm not a financial advisor, CPA, or attorney. And remember, I got links below for Amazon products. And remember, you can click on any link and order anything. Once you open that window, you can order anything you want, not necessarily those great real estate books I got. But if you're a real estate investor, I encourage you to get all those books. But if you're not yet, just click on the link. You can open it up and order anything you want, and I'll get a very small commission. I think recently someone ordered something for like, say, $9.99, and what I get, 40 cents maybe? Something like that. So it's not a lot, but it's something. It's a way to help pay me back because my channel is not monetized. And as I said before, if I become monetized, odds are I will not put Amazon links below. You never know, I might, but probably not. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to talk a little bit on seller financing. I have used seller financing for 9 houses that I have, and I have checked on seller financing several other times when I bought houses. Okay, with seller financing, the beauty of seller financing is normally every seller is different. Keep that in mind. Every seller is different. So if you get seller financing from somebody in your market, they're different than somebody in my market, okay? And we could be in the same market, but if it's a homeowner selling their house, odds are I'm not buying for that homeowner, so your experience could be different than my experience. So don't let anyone tell you this is how you do it with sellers, because every seller is different, okay? Some sellers are going to be real estate investors. Some sellers are going to be crusty real estate investors who are selling off all of their properties. Some will be a homeowner. Some will be a child, an adult child of some older parent who died and they just want to get rid of the house, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Every seller is different, okay? So with that being said, nothing is set in stone. Nothing is like, this is how you have to do it, okay? So be aware of any other YouTuber who says, this is exactly what you got to do. Everyone's different. And when you do it, be honest with the seller. If you're trying to use seller financing, be completely honest with them on everything. Be transparent with them. Tell them what you want to do. Tell them the benefit to them. Okay? Here's the benefit to the seller. If they don't need that lump sum money for some reason, like to buy another house or to do whatever, if they don't need that big lump sum of money, tell them, and especially if it wasn't their house and they have to pay tax on it, like capital gains tax. If they lived in the house and they're selling it, then they may not have to pay capital gains tax as long as they lived there for 5 years. I mean, 2 years out of the last 5 years, okay? But say it's a real estate investor who's selling their portfolio, then they would have to pay capital gains tax on it if they've held the property any length of time, all right? So a benefit to seller financing is they won't get the lump sum at one time, where say if you give them $100,000, they pay capital gains tax on $100,000, and that's added to whatever their income is. So they're paying more in tax. If you can utilize seller financing, you may or may not give them a down payment. Depends on them. They may not want a down payment. They may want 6% interest or 8% interest, but they'll give it to you with a 0% down payment. So if you could get a rental property with no money out of pocket and they charged you 8%, depends on the price, depends on what rent would be. It might be a good deal. And it'd be a good deal for them because they're collecting 8%. So, but anyway, but what happens is the benefit to them is their monthly income is less than that big lump sum. You know, the big $100,000, it's whatever it is for the, that monthly income. So for 12 months, it's still less than that big lump sum. So they're paying less in tax for that given year, okay? Also, they are not responsible for any maintenance to the house. They're not responsible for utilities to the house. They're not responsible for anything. But you can put them as a, what do you call it, like a second on the mortgage. I think that's what it's called. Where kind of like they're the bank, where if you didn't pay, they could foreclose upon the house and get it back, okay? Something like that. And you could even sign it where if you're confident you're going to pay, which hopefully you are, You could even tell them you will sign something that if you miss X number of months, you'll forego the foreclosure process. You will give the house back to them. Okay, and you better be confident you can do this. Okay, so but you can do whatever you want to do, basically, if the seller agrees to it. They might agree to 0% down payment. They might agree to 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%, 25%, whatever. They might want 15-year amortization. They might want 30-year amortization, whatever it may be. All right. The 9 houses I bought with seller financing, I bought them from a crusty veteran real estate investor. He had something like 500 properties at one time. So he knew what he was doing. Okay. And he told me he wanted 15-year amortization because he wouldn't be alive in 30 years. He's older. He didn't want a 30-year mortgage because he wouldn't be alive in 30 years. But he was very willing to do seller financing. But he also, if you want to get a bank mortgage, that was okay with him as well. Okay. So I ran the numbers, and it's like if I did 15-year amortization, I wasn't getting enough cash flow. And I wanted the cash flow because I wanted to be able to live off my rent, and et cetera, and move to Florida. Okay. So I asked him, could I do something like this? I thought about it. I didn't bounce this idea off anyone. I did bounce off Michael Zuber after he agreed to it, I think, and get his opinion on it. But I basically just came up with an idea. It's like, what if, because I brainstormed myself, what if I did this? What if I asked him if I could get 30-year amortization? But I know he might not live for 30 years. He said that. He doesn't want to be paid, take 30 years to pay it off. But what if I could get 30-year amortization, and at the 15-year mark, if I haven't paid it off by then, I'd owe the 15-year balloon. I'd owe a balloon payment of whatever the balance was. And if you know of a 30-year mortgage, at the 15-year mark, you owe a lot of what that original price was, because a lot of that mortgage was paid off over the last half of the mortgage. So he would get, a fairly good balloon. I had 15 years in to figure out how do I do this? How do I get that money? So with 9 houses, that's a little chunk of money. So, but with that being said, then I made sure there's no prepayment penalty. I asked him if I pay extra the very first month. No, that's fine. If you want to pay extra, that's fine. No prepayment penalty. I got a 4.9% interest rate. At the time I got it, 4.9% was slightly higher than what I would get from a lender, like Prime Lending, for a mortgage on a rental property. I might get 4.5% or whatever it might be. But I got 4.9%. Looking at it now, 4.9% is pretty good, right? So, but that's the thing. With sellers, you can do whatever you want. What I'm doing is I am refinancing one of those houses right now. I've told them about it. The same older gentleman thanked me for letting him know. Same with his second in command. She thanked me for letting them know, give them a heads up about me doing this. So, because that way they know they're going to get paid the balance of what I owe in a lump sum from my non-QM lender, Kiavi, that I'm using. Okay, but if you want to try seller financing, I've asked real estate agents this. When I was making an offer on a house, I forget exactly the order I did it, but I think in my offer, I asked the real estate agent, could you ask the seller, could I get seller financing? And I explained to my real estate agent how seller financing works. I encourage them to explain to the listing agent, how it works, how it can save the seller tax money. And they will then have to explain it to the seller, which means it goes from my mouth to my realtor to this realtor to the seller, which means who knows how well things get explained. So when I've done that, it's never happened. I've gotten a response back, they don't want to do seller financing. My guess is if I could have spoken with them, at least I would know the reason. Maybe they need that lump sum of money, But if I could explain the benefits to them of less tax. If a lump sum will probably push them into a higher tax bracket, the rent will keep them in it. Perhaps everyone's different. Keep them in a lower tax bracket. Okay, so it is what it is. So, but if you can get seller financing, many times they're not going to ask for anything. They're not going to ask for your tax return. They're not going to ask for They might possibly ask to prove that you have the funds. They want to see that you got the money. Maybe. Everyone's different. They might not. If they know you have a real estate portfolio, they're probably confident that you have the money. They're not going to run a credit check on you. And it's not going to be all that paperwork. It'll be very simple. You just sign a few things. You still might probably use a title company or a closing company, to handle closing. So there might be an attorney involved, depending on what state you're in. All right. But it's much, much simpler. And if you want to buy, as I did, 9 houses, I did 4 houses and 5 houses. I bought 4 houses at one time. I bought 5 houses at one time. If I was using a bank mortgage, that would have been a pain. That would have been a hassle. It would have been almost impossible to do that. I mean, I could have done it, but it would have been a lot harder to do it. Using seller financing, it got done. It got done. So anyway, hopefully this helps a little bit. All right. Don't worry about asking any seller if they're interested in seller financing. Explain to them the benefits, because there are benefits to them. And you can explain to them how, if they need a down payment now, say up to 20%, you could pay that 20% down payment. If they are looking more for interest on their money, maybe you can negotiate a deal with a 0% down payment or 5% or 10% and pay them a slightly higher interest rate, as long as the numbers still work for you. You still got to run the numbers. You still try to negotiate the best price you can negotiate. And maybe you can negotiate a lower price, but give them a higher monthly payment and pay it off in 20 years or 25 years. The ball is in your court and their court. But the more you learn about it, and you have options. There's so many. You can change the term length, 15 years, 20 years, 20. It's a seller. It's not a bank. Maybe you do 17 years and 6 months, whatever. It's between you and the seller. Maybe you use the current mortgage rate. Maybe you go higher. Maybe you go lower. Maybe they don't need money. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they don't need cash now, but they want increasing cash flow over 30 years. So maybe you can figure out a deal where maybe in the beginning you pay less, but as time goes on, you're paying more. The world is yours. You can do whatever you want. Okay? Hopefully that helps. All right. Mazke's busy. Mazke's going to sign off. This went longer than what I thought it would go. So y'all take care. Stay safe. And remember, I'm busy. I'm going to cut back on the frequency of my videos probably for this summer. There'll be some stretches I make them every single day. There'll be stretches where I might skip a few days in between, because I have a very busy summer and it seems like it's just getting busier and busier. Okay? So y'all stay safe in all you do. Keep loving life. Mazke is signing out.